Do you believe that real love hurts? That violence can't be violence if it comes from a partner, a lover, or a spouse?
Do you comfort yourself that this person is jealous and possessive because they're crazy about me? But where do you draw the line?
Let's be honest. Could you be a victim of domestic abuse? Or are you the perpetrator? This and more on CS311.
Crime Stop Jamaica and National Bakery, in association with TVJ and our sponsors, Guardsman, Home and Things, Careers Jamaica, Grace Kennedy, Progressive Grocers and Musson Foundation present CS311 with Deirdre Dixon and Leroy Hall.
It's easy to stand up when a stranger is mistreating you, violating your rights, abusing you physically and emotionally. But what happens when the violator is a loved one, a parent, or a child?
Like it or not, for many in Jamaica, domestic abuse is a daily reality that often goes unpunished, sometimes until it is too late. I'm Leroy Hall.
And I'm Deirdre Dixon. Our topic today is domestic abuse. But what is it? And what can we do about it?
All right, so domestic abuse is when abuse, meaning whether it is physical or sexual or emotional or psychological, people may call it, occurs between persons who have a domestic relationship. So generally we think of domestic violence, which would incorporate any kind of relationship, so it could be between children and mothers, etc., etc. But when we really think about domestic abuse, we're more thinking of intimate partner violence, which speaks to when partners, persons who are involved in an intimate relationship or who were involved in an intimate relationship, have these encounters or have this kind of dynamic between them where one is controlling the other. So typically, statistics show that it is more often that the male is a perpetrator, but it's not that males can't also be victimized. The aim, whoever is the perpetrator, their aim is to try and control the other person, to have them behave, act, think in the way that they think is best. Though persons may not want to believe this, anybody can be a victim. Right? What's going to happen is that the way that the perpetrator may approach you may be different depending on your personality. So it's not so much that victims accept what is happening to them. They want things to change. Quite often they want things to change. So it's not like they're like, okay, I'm fine with this happening. But in terms of their options, in terms of how they're going to get out of it and seeing a way to get out of it, oftentimes that's where there's an issue. There's a problem. They can't see it, and so they therefore remain, right? So for us on the outside, it looks like, oh, you know, she's accepting it, she's okay with this, but really that's not the case. In terms of the type of person who may be more likely to be victimized, persons who may have been abused as children, persons who may have been sexually assaulted are more likely to be victimized. You could have had a perfectly pristine in terms of violence life, but then you encounter this person and you get into this kind of dynamic with them. You find yourself in this situation, you can't see a way out, and so the same thing about what you're calling acceptance, it may look like acceptance because you can't see a way out. So having developed this kind of strategy or this kind of way of dealing with it, say that relationship ends, well, you kind of haven't gotten rid of this state of learned helplessness, and so it makes it a little bit easier if somebody else comes along who similarly wants to control you. The countries that tend to have higher rates of, especially physical victimization, but even sexual or emotional, are ones that have traditional gender roles, ones where women have little autonomy or less autonomy. Jamaica is, unfortunately, still a patriarchal society, despite all that we talk about, you know, having all these mother-headed households. We also are, on top of that, a country where violence in general is high. So I think the combination of the two contribute to the occurrence and the continuation of this kind of abuse. The victims often stay because they really can't see a way out. So if your society has decided this is not important enough to put enough resources into it, so that there are options, there are many options for somebody who is victimized, then again you're helping to perpetuate the abuse, you're helping for it to continue. There is definitely evidence that males are abused, right? They're victimized, though the nature of the abuse may be a little different than what women encounter. Men are in control, right? Despite what we may see. The nature of control when a woman is an abuser versus when a man is an abuser could be very, very different. So it makes it a little bit more difficult, because even when you think in terms of services, what you may think may be useful or what may be useful for a female victim may not be the same thing that a male victim needs. And so it's important for us to look at these different forms of abuse separately, because we need to understand that they're not the same. We can't just say, okay, it's abuse because one person is trying to control the other. The dynamics of it, the implications of it are different. So within relationships, there's evidence again that abuse occurs in non-heterosexual relationships. Again, society comes into play, because on top of the typical dynamic of, you're with somebody who you love, and this person is doing this to you, you still love them, they still show you love in other ways, and so you want to stay with them. Non-heterosexuals have even fewer options in terms of seeking support from society. And so again, it's important that we pay attention to and recognize that this is occurring and think about what can we do to assist. So even the informal support that a heterosexual woman or man could count on, oftentimes a non-heterosexual doesn't have that. And the last group that I'm going to mention in terms of hidden victims, which we also need to pay attention to, and I'm doing that in my research, are the adolescents. The little research that I have done shows it's happening in adolescent relationships, and I don't mean relationships that adolescents are having with adults, but even amongst themselves. And all forms of abuse, the psychological, the physical, the sexual, happens in their relationships as well. This is something that we don't talk about at all. And it's important, again, it's happening, we need to do something. So there's lots of work out there to be done.
CS311 returns in a moment. There are so many senseless acts that we read about or hear on the news, acts for which we have no explanation. Late one night after a hard shift at work, a weary woman heads home.
But tragedy awaits her just down the road, and Shelly Pinnock-Lafayette never reaches the comfort of her family.
Wednesday, January 16, 2013. 30-year-old registered midwife and nurse Shelly Pinnock-Lafayette left work at the Onoto Bay Hospital after a long and stressful day. Looking forward to getting home, but not to the long drive to Farmers Heights in Port Antonio. A section of the road to her community was in terrible condition, and this forced her to slow down to a crawl. On nearing her home, assailant or assailants unknown came out of the bushes. The car continued driving, coming to a halt in a ditch a short distance away.
Shelly Pinnock died at the crime scene with bullet wounds to her neck and other parts of her body. Beside her was her handbag with money, her cell phone and other personal items, all untouched. Robbery could not have been the motive for this crime.
Even today, her family is still suffering from this loss.
Shelly loved her kids bad. Zaik and Zanikia, she loved them. It's so hard seeing Zanikia because she looks so much like her mother. Each time you see her, you remember. It's really sad on them. There's nothing I can do to give them that love. She was the breadwinner for us. You know, she always take care of my kids, you know, and she always tell me, you will never suffer. She just got what she want and started 7 months in her job. Where she lived when she died, she was so good to them because it's a little district where most people up there doesn't have it. So she always look out for them. If she buy a bag of rice, a grain, I go to each and everybody she looked out for. She keep big party for the kids, you know, ice cream, cake, everything. You know, she just try her best. Well, I would like to say it's been 5 years and it wasn't easy and it's not an easy road. But I'm begging and asking if anybody know, see or hear anything, could just come out and say something to let her soul rest in peace.
Crime Stop is offering $100,000 for information leading to the arrest and charge of the murderer of Shelyon Pinnock.
Don't let this death go unpunished. The number to call is 311. At Crime Stop, we don't use *69 or caller ID. We don't want your name. We just need your help.
Domestic abuse is no respecter of gender or age, but the most common victims are women. A 2008 study by Jamaica's National Planning Board surveyed women between the ages of 15 and 49 with partners.
1 in every 3 of them had experienced violence from a partner in their lifetime. For 8% of them, the violence was sexual. And 48% of them suffered some form of controlling behavior. Let's talk about protection under the law.
Domestic violence victims often feel powerless to save themselves. The Domestic Violence Act states that once you can prove that someone has used or threatened to use violence against you or caused physical or mental injury, you can seek an order of protection. For example, an order may be granted for someone who insists on watching your home or place of residence, follows or harasses you in person or on the phone, ill-treats you verbally or physically, or damages your property. Once in force, the order may prohibit that person from entering or remaining in a victim's place of residence, workplace, or school. And if the order is disobeyed, the police have the authority to arrest the accused. An order can even prevent an abusing spouse from remaining and living in the household. However, although rape is illegal, the law only prosecutes for the rape of a spouse when spouses have been separated or begun the proceedings to dissolve the marriage, when the husband is under a court order not to molest or cohabit with his wife, or when the husband knows he suffers from a sexually transmitted infection. Remember, violence cannot be tolerated from anyone. Support for domestic abuse victims is provided by the Victim Support Unit of the Ministry of Justice.
Even in a small country of less than 11,000 square miles, people continue to go missing. Surely someone knows where they are. Could that be you?
Missing, brought to you by Progressive Grocers. An Ananda alert had been activated for then 16-year-old Erica Lewis of Lighthouse Road, Galena in St. Mary, who has been missing since Monday, September 18, 2017. She is of brown complexion, slim build, and is about 170 centimeters or 5 feet 2 inches tall. Erica Lewis was last seen in her community at 7:30 in the morning, dressed in a yellow blouse, burgundy skirt, and black shoes. 74-year-old Lloyd Hunt of Benning Road, Brownstown in St. Anne, has been missing since Sunday, October 29, 2017. He is of brown complexion, medium build, and is about 160 centimeters or 5 feet 3 inches tall. Mr. Hunt was last seen at about 7 p.m. in the community, dressed in a blue shirt, brown pants, and a pair of black and white shoes. 74-year-old Alden Chambers of Dunsinane District, Manchester, has been missing since Friday, August 4, 2017. She is of brown complexion, slim build, and is 175 centimeters or 5 feet 9 inches tall. Alden Chambers was last seen at home dressed in a beige sweater, blue jeans, and a pair of black shoes. 36-year-old Ian Gray, otherwise called Naya, of Smithfield District, Savannah Lamar, Westmoreland, has been missing since Sunday, February 26, 2017. He is of brown complexion, medium build, and is about 168 centimeters or 5 feet 6 inches tall. Mr. Gray was last seen at home wearing a multicolored plaid t-shirt and a pair of red shoes.
Remember, Crime Stop accepts information on all kinds of crimes: murder, robbery, rape, domestic abuse, fraud, scams. The number to call is 311.
Hello, Calvin. I didn't get it. Yes, of course, they look at the documents. They look at all the paperwork. And all he said to me was, "Sorry, ma'am, but your application was unsuccessful. Please try again." Calvin, this is the 7th time now I've come up to the embassy, and all 7 times they have turned me down. I just don't know what to do anymore. Yes, I collect the partner job. Yes, 250,000. I have it on me. All right. Later. Bye. Hello, ma'am. My name is Tony. They turn you down. I can help you, you know. How are you going to do that? Well, I run a small operation that help people like yourself get the visa. Really? Is how it works. It's a simple procedure. All I would need is your documents, $100,000, and then 2 weeks time to the max. You're sitting in New York and sip beer champagne. 2 weeks. That's all it would take. My sources work fast. Quick turnaround. I don't even know you. Ma'am, look at the car that I drive. You think that $100,000 is anything at all to Tony? I'm just trying to help you out. These are 2 passports. I just collected these for 2 of my clients. I have my partner money on me, you know. I could do it. Okay, let's do it. Just give me your papers and the $100,000. How long it will take? Just 45 minutes. Then suppose I don't see you come back in 45 minutes. I tell you what, take my number and you can call me just in case. No one is entitled to issue visas outside of the relevant embassy of the country you wish to travel to. Never give your money or your documents to strangers pretending to work for an embassy or pretending that they can get a visa for you at a cost. Be wise. Think, think, think. Don't be scammed.
Domestic abuse may lead to torment, assault, but sometimes it ends in murder. 38% of women murdered worldwide were killed by an intimate partner.
Tell someone. Seek help. Walk away. Up next, Most Wanted.
Othniel Andre Smith, 30 years old, of Four Paths, Clarendon, is wanted for the murder of Sylvia Johnson Smart, who was stabbed to death on Lawson Boulevard, Four Paths, on November 23, 2015. Othniel Andre Smith has been on the run ever since. Marlon Barnett, otherwise called Shortman, of Gregory Park, Portmore, St. Catherine, is wanted for shooting and wounding with intent and illegal possession of a firearm. Barnett was accosted by a police party in the Caymanas Gardens area of Portmore, St. Catherine on Thursday, February 13, 2015, when he opened fire, wounding 1 officer. Marlon Barnett has been on the run ever since. He is considered to be armed and dangerous. Travis Rasheen Myrie, otherwise called YC, of Portobello District, St. James, is wanted for 2 counts of shooting and wounding with intent for 2 separate incidents, both of which occurred in Portobello. First on November 11, 2016 and the second on July 5, 2017. Travis Rasheen Myrie is on the run and considered armed and dangerous.
If you know the whereabouts of any of these people, don't hesitate. Call Crime Stop at 311. No names asked. We just want information.
Protect yourself and those you love with the following safety tips.
Safety Tips, sponsored by Guardsman.
Domestic abuse in Jamaica is fairly widespread, and the dominant one is where the male member of the household abuses the female, but there is also the situation where the female abuses the male and that the other members of the household are somewhat abused. Signs of domestic abuse: depression, low self-esteem, uncertainness as to how you handle and manage your affairs, and sometimes when there is significant physical abuse, you will see scars, bruising, black eyes, and so on. The situation that exists is one that is very difficult to deal with, particularly as an outsider, because you know that your intervention is going to bring greater stress to that entire household. But the question is, do you sit and wait for it to become more violent? Do you sit and wait on it to become a situation where somebody loses their life? It's one that we have to intervene. We cannot sit silently on the sidelines. We need to first of all speak to the person who is being abused, get them to confirm or to admit that they need help in this situation, and then to get the authorities to intervene. It's a very difficult one because it's relationships which cause the maintenance of the household may become shattered. It may be where persons within the household have to leave that household. And therefore, as an outsider, you too go through a certain amount of emotional stress before you make that decision to intervene. But believe me, it's only a matter of time that it becomes more violent. So intervene when you understand that it's there, when you see those signs that domestic abuse and domestic violence is taking place, and get the authorities to step in. The life you save may be the one that you know.
Domestic abuse is often a hidden crime that goes unreported because of low self-esteem, shame, and fear. But the price of silence may be too high to pay.
Please, if you or someone you know is the victim of domestic violence, please call the numbers on your screen. Many thanks to our sponsors in support of Season 3 of CS311. This is Leroy Hall.
And I'm Deidre Dixon, reminding you to join us next time as we continue the fight against crime on CS311.